was built to last when the webs are weaving. I could change the past.
What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to another rendition of my crazy ass life. Okay, so for those who are new here, I'm gonna give y'all some different videos of my lore and things that have gone on in my life, but this is gonna be an insane story time. Yes, there needs to be many parts for this crazy thing that I have lived that we call life. Okay, so in order for all of this to make sense, I gotta give y'all a little bit of some background. Okay, so stay with me. Okay, the background is I'm in the army, right? Now, when I went to the army, when I went to AIT, you're supposed to graduate, go to AIT, figure out what job you're going to, your first duty station or whatever, right? But when I got my orders, I was supposed to go to Seattle, Washington, right? That's what my orders were. And then I also was going airborne because I had won a contract, like, for having a high PT score. So I had an airborne contract that I had to go and solidify. And I also had orders to go to Seattle, Washington. Now, because the airborne and like how dangerous it is and all that, mind you, I had just turned 18. My mom was like, hell the fuck no, are you crazy? Like, she cussed my ass the fuck out. So I went to like the center, people who do that. Like, when I asked my sergeant or whatever, they took me to the center to get that shit taken off of my ERB, or, you know, off of my orders. So that was a wrap, right? So now the Seattle orders still stand. That just came down like a couple days after that. So me and the other people got our orders, like, yeah, girl, we went to the same place, blah, 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 right? And then I get a call from the higher up saying that now that our jobs, because I was a golf, not a 92, not a cook, I was a 91 golf. So 91 golf works inside of turrets. I went to school for electrical components inside of turrets. So schematics, all of those components and things, soldering, circuit boards, that's what I went to school for, to learn how to do that for the little electrical things inside of tanks to make sure they work properly, right? And they took those jobs completely out in 2000, I think the end of 14, early 15, but they were piecing those jobs out along with the whole bunch of other ones and consolidating, you know, the soldiers who no longer had a job. We just graduated AIT. Nobody told me what that meant. You know, I was a baby in the army pretty much. I hadn't been in the big army yet, what we called it. So I didn't know that they were fucking me over, right? So when I got the new orders, they said some higher ranking person pulled my job. They looked at all the people who were golfs that had no job and were snatching them up to, you know, have them wherever they needed army people to cover down at. Cool, fine, whatever. They were sending me to Oklahoma, to Fort Sill. Now, again, I didn't know anybody. I was a baby in the army. I didn't know that Fort Sill was what we call a black hole, which is you're gonna spend the rest of your career there, and it's not gonna be fun. You're not gonna be able to advance any of that, and they haven't deployed in over 10 years. So it was pretty much a sorry ass base, somewhere you do not want to be. I had no idea. So that's where they sent me to, right? So I get there, and I always wanted to be a drill sergeant. So I was doing whatever I had to do to, you know, bulk up my status to be good enough to get over there on the training side. Now, you could work on the training side or you can work on the artillery side. Artillery was where I was. And originally, it was 75th Artillery. So during that time, there weren't really, they weren't like, they were split up. The whole purpose was for the base to be consolidated because the army was like, you know, moving people around. There's a lot of stuff going on or whatever. So I came in while they were still consolidating, and it used to be Bravo Company. It wasn't Bravo Company like the next year and a half because we were working with the ASA and all these different places to consolidate, moving stuff around. It was pretty much not organized, right? Everybody was working on getting all these things where they should be, and it was chaotic. So I really didn't have a boss. I really didn't have a place to work. I was everywhere. I was doing everything. So after that, like, a year and a half of me being on that base and literally having no direction at all, the person who pulled my orders started, like, during that process, they started training me to become a Fox. So that's a small arms mechanic, right? Pretty much you work on pew-pews. the big ones, the small ones, all the pew-pews of the military. And because it was that position and they were consolidating, because it was just me, when I came there, it was my chief who was the one that requested my orders to come down, me to come down, and one other specialist who had been demoted. And he failed out of air trafficker control school, is what he told me. And he was ETSing within the next like 6 months. Now, I had no idea what that meant for me. Why would this person pull my orders to come to a place where nobody is at? Because they wanted me to replace him, which means all my dreams of if I wanted to do airborne, if I wanted to be a drill sergeant, if I wanted to go and pursue schooling, it would be a no out of the gate. They would just stick me there and I'd be there for the rest of my contract. And I had no say in it and nobody told me anything. And they all knew out of the gate when we would talk about where we wanted to go, what was the purpose of us being in this career field long term. I would always say, oh, I want to be drill sergeant. I'm going to go over here and do that. So everybody around me knew that I was never going to get to that point and never told me anything and continued to let me work to get to that point, knowing it would never come for me. So that's the background, right? So time is going on and all the stuff that I'm asking to do, you know, the chief and the guy has left at this point already. And more people are coming in that I had saw at my AIT. Now these, for people who don't know what AIT is, it's like a college, but strictly for military people to go to school for whatever the jobs the military has given them, right? So you'll see people passing from classes, but you're not in their class, and everybody has a class that they are going to graduate with. So it'll be like everybody who's a mechanic, everybody who's a whatever, everybody who's a whoever, right? Think about it that way. So my class graduated and we were the last 2 classes of this like group of people. We were the last group of Gulfs, the last 2 that were ever going to be. And we graduated already. There were 2 other schools of people who were Foxes. Our schools were in the same building. So the people who worked on pew-pews, right? And I would see them in passing, but we didn't go to the same schools. So now some of those people who were Foxes, like they went to school for that, are now coming to where I work. So now I see them here. And I saw them in passing, or we lived on the same like dorm room floor. And I really didn't get along with like 2 of the people there. So whatever. I had a reputation where I like to fight. And women in the Army do not be liking to fight. They be pussy for real. They'll go and tell on you. They talk all that big shit and they don't want to throw hands. Where I'm from, you better know how to back that shit up that you talking, okay? So some of these people are coming to where I work at now. I've been here for almost 2 years at that point where I was at. I was close to getting my specialist. I had came in as a PV2, and because I had redone boot camp because I broke my hip and all that, I already had extra time. So I'm coming close to my 4-year mark already. So they came in as like PV2s, E3s, and we had one come in as a specialist, right? So she came in because she went to college. She had a little more rank than me. She had less time, a little more rank. She didn't really understand the job, and they were new. All the people were new. I had been there all that time and watched the company and all that stuff become what it was. And they had zero respect for that. I don't think it was just because one of the girls outranked me, but I think it was because I don't know. I can only assume that it was because they were like, okay, that was when you were, that's when you first got here. None of that shit matters. And that's how they just kind of steamrolled over me. Now, because I was there all that time and I was the only one working, I knew how to do all of the things by myself. This was a 1-woman program and it was just all on me. And now that more people were there, the boss who trained me himself was now training these new women, and we had new people like coming in, just more and more people consolidating to this one space, right? And they just all kind of shit on me, just went with their emotions. We had some other people that outranked me, and like, of course, because we were enlisted, they put them above me, even though they really didn't do what I had been doing all that time alone. So they're doing stuff different ways, they're moving shit in weird spots, and I'm just like, okay, it was a lot, So I'm still busting my ass thinking that I'm gonna be going to the training side to be a drill sergeant. I'm just like, all you gotta do is stay and get your E5. You can get the fuck out of here, you know. Even though that was never ever gonna happen for me. I didn't learn that yet. So now it comes up to a point where we have been working together for I think about 8 months, and we had a higher up person come in and say that they were going to evaluate how we worked as a team since people were consolidated there, and they wanted to see how all of us were getting along, how was the workload, whatever. They wanted to do a check-in, right? And they would send us out on jobs. So now we started to work in teams or by ourselves. Now I have been working by myself or with the guy who was leaving, and his work was kind of lackluster because he was leaving, of course, right? He gets to leave it all on me. So now that I've gotten used to how it works, I was normally the one putting in most of the work because I have been working longer than these other people. So once you finish working on like a company's weapons or whatever, you have to tag, you have to write everything that you did, you have to do the work, you have to transport these, you know, pew-pews everywhere and bring them back and answer for them, right? And I had done so much work that the person who was evaluating, so like the colonel who was evaluating everybody's work, he started to look through the paperwork and say, wow, y'all are on a roll. Somebody is working hard, right? I'm just like, oh, I know he's talking about me. I'm possibly gonna, you know, get a coin or get some type of pin or recognition or something. He looks at the bottom of the paper because the girl who worked in the office that came in as a specialist that went to college, after I would fill out the paperwork, I would bring them back to her, and she would sign at the bottom saying that the paper was, you know, filled out properly. He looked at the bottom of the paper and saw her name and asked who that was, and she was like, it's me. And he said, oh, I'm gonna reward you for all your hard work. He fucking gave her a colonel's coin, which looks amazing in your file, for the hard work that was mine. And when I spoke up and said, hey, wait a minute, and I told the girl, I said, that's not fair. Why didn't you say anything? Why didn't you say that that wasn't your work, right? And she said, I do the paperwork. I do the paperwork. And I was like, but you didn't do the work to have the paperwork. You could have at least said I did the work. She told me that I was spoiled and I was acting like a brat and I need to grow up and stop whining. And then when I asked other people if they thought it was fair, they said, it's not that serious. It's just a job. It's not that deep. When I tell y'all, it wasn't just the fact that I was working like a dog. I worked in inventory. So I had to count every last screw in that motherfucker. Every last thing we needed, how much it cost in the system, the Sam's E system, documenting all of that. I'm going back and forth. People are calling me to do extra shit. Mechanics are shorthand. I'm working with mechanics. I'm working with all these other I'm busting my ass to get recognized. And it's to the point where people know that my work ethic is high. I get shit done. I don't make excuses. I don't complain. I get shit done. It had also come to a point where, because they were new and the boss was training them, when they had CQ or something, the boss didn't want them to miss out on like instructional time or hands-on. So he asked me to do it. For people who don't know, CQ consists of you staying up 24 hours. It's a lower enlisted person, so it would have been me, what they call a runner, and another person who is like a sergeant or a specialist. You would work together, right? You would stay guard at like the barracks or the headquarters, wherever they would send you for the night, the both of you. And the runner, who is the lower enlisted person, has to drive and go get the food, or somebody calls and said something's going on, like a DV situation, a husband and wife, you got to go pick up the person that y'all work with, bring them back to the barracks, find them a room, you know, if they've been drinking too much or whatever. They force you to go do all that shit. So I'm doing that for them. And it's 24 hours on. The next day you get off, and then after that you come back to work. So I'm constantly just busting my ass to the point where it's starting to affect my health, and I'm starting to realize like these motherfuckers don't appreciate me. I'm busting my ass for no reason. And then I had like, I'm getting into it with my roommate. She's being a bitch to me. She's starting shit talking to people I work with, because me and my roommate, we worked in the same like building, but we didn't work in the same office, right? She's telling people that we're getting into it at the room and bringing it to work, to my actual coworkers that I work with. And now it's causing problems for me where I work. I'm also dealing with that. I'm also dealing with the fact that I was engaged to this guy who I went to school with. Come to find out, he was cheating on me the whole time. So I find that out too, after blow after blow. And it seems like I cannot catch a fucking break, right? So now, with all that constantly going on, I decided I wasn't going to give as much as I have been giving anymore to this job, to people. Nothing. You won't get it from me, right? So now when they'll ask me, can I do their duties or can I do something, I will flat out say no. And they'll be like, why would you say, people start getting mad with me for saying no. I'm like, that's not even my fucking job description. I'm going above and beyond for people who don't give a fuck what happens to me. You're not putting in a good word for me. You're not doing anything for me. I'm not doing anything for you. Figure it out the same way you want me to. So now word starts to get around that I have a bad attitude and I'm hard to get along with them. It's hard to work with me. And now people are starting to treat me bad. And I really didn't give a fuck, right? So now all that is going on and we get a new boss. Now all the people who have been like in and out of there, none of them were sergeants. Like none of them had outranked us. And to think about the scale of it would be like a PV2 would be like a freshman, like a PV3 would be a junior, so on and so on. So a sergeant would be somebody, a freshman in college. They wouldn't even be high school anymore. They'd be a freshman in college, right? They have graduated to the big leagues. So we didn't have anybody who was in that position. So it was kind of like somebody tell you what to do. Like, bitch, you can't really tell me what to do. Like, just because you're a senior and I'm a junior, fuck you. It was kind of like that type of stuff going on. And when the new sergeant came, I had saw him a couple of times. And the girl who was like, I saw her in passing when I was at AIT. She became my friend, or so I thought, right? She was my friend. I'm going to call her Booty Head. No, I'm going to change her name. I'm not going to call her Booty Head. I'm going to call her Soy Sauce, right? Okay, so Soy Sauce, me and her, I seen her when we used to live at AIT together because we stayed on the same female floor. So think about it like a dorm room, right? Like you see them in passing, but you don't really know that hoe, right? You hey, bye, whatever. So that's the type of relationship we had. But I would see her all the time, and I would see her with the new guy who's our boss, and she'd be getting in and out of his car, right? So to blow off some steam, I had started working out because I always maintained my PT badge. I worked out. I was in great shape. I bust my ass in every way for this job, right? So I started working harder to go to the gym and all that, and I started seeing the boss there. Now, I didn't know, whatever they had going on because, the Army, most people don't have cars, and most of the time you get in trouble if somebody doesn't show up to something, or most people carpool and it could be complete fucking strangers or somebody you just met. And it don't mean something inappropriate. Everybody just rides together, and that's not a big deal, right? Remember when I told y'all they were consolidating the base? So they were getting people who worked in these same fields from scattered all over the base to bring them to our one shop, right? So the new guy comes in, and I saw her get out his car, because we lived a couple buildings away from each other. She got out of his car. She had groceries. So I'm like, oh, he just took a grocery shopping, whatever. I wouldn't think nothing beyond that. And when she get out, he would just drive off, So obviously they're carpooling. Now, when I started seeing him at the gym, we started talking and getting close to each other. This is before they even came. I didn't know shit. I just seen him do it a couple times, right? So now they moved him to my office. And when I saw him, I was like, hi, how are you? And that was just it. Now, beyond that, there was no real, nothing with us. I ain't do nothing but say hey to the new dude, right? I was just hoping he wasn't like an asshole because he was our new boss. He was the first person who was like this senior, this freshman in college position, right? So this is me still hating my job and telling people fuck them. So now people are walking on eggshells around me, and I'm acting like I'm the big dog in that bitch. So he didn't like me at all. I rubbed him the wrong way. And the next day he was there, me and my roommate had came to blows that night. So his first official thing that he did as our boss was take me up to see me and his boss for me getting moved for assaulting my roommate. So he really didn't like me. He was like, okay, now I'm in here with this girl with this attitude. the people in here, telling me she a bad soldier and da 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 da. And now she fighting her roommate, like, and I didn't like him either. I'm like, you coming all hard on me. You don't even fucking know me. You just like them, right? So we don't like each other. So time goes on, right? And now when I start to complain, because the way I was acting, we started to have a lot of meetings within there where our bosses and people were looking in saying, hey, what the fuck is going on in here? Like, what needs to be improved? What does she keep complaining about this stuff? If y'all saying that it's not true, why does it look like it's true, right? So I'm just sitting there like, them bitches is lazy. Them hoes don't want to do nothing. They putting everything on me. I'm just pop, 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 pop with the shits. So now they stopped just saying, oh, she crazy. They start to evaluate their asses. And what they didn't know was every couple of months we get like a progress counseling. It's pretty much like a progress report. And them bitches start getting bad marks on their stuff. And I'm getting good marks. And they're like, oh, it's just because she be complaining. No, bitch, it's because you fucking lazy. That's what it is, right? And you don't know what the fuck you doing. So now it comes to a point where the new boss is saying, hey, I see that you're working hard. I know that you were trying to get promoted or whatever. I'm going to help you, right? I'm like, cool. So me and him start to get cool, right? One day, I'm going out of town and I had a car. The other girl didn't have a car. The other chick that we worked with, she was married and she lived off the base with her husband, right? So me and her are the only single soldiers that live in the barracks. So we see each other all the time. We done started hanging out, getting close or whatever. The other girl, she was married and she lived off the post with her husband too. So literally we were the only two single people, close in age, whatever. So we started hanging out. Now this weekend we go out of town to go shopping. And she was like, hey, let me ask you something. You know the new dude, like the boss? And I was like, yeah, what about him? And she was like, I went to his house. I said, oh, what you was doing over there? She was like, I don't know, I just went to his house. I was like, okay. So I don't think they're over. So like the next week or whatever, I'm still going to the gym. I see the new dude. I said, now what the fuck you doing? Oh girl, come your house, what y'all doing? I'm just fucking with him because we working out. I said, girl, I had the shit. And she asked me to take her grocery shopping and shit. I told her, hold on, I gotta go shit. I'm finna shit in my own house. I ain't finna be shitting on no damn Walmart bathroom. So I'm cracking up laughing. We dying laughing. I said, she told me she went to your house like she went in that bitch or something. Like, what y'all got going on? I'm still fucking with her. He was like, what? I said, yeah, that's what she said. Now, for people who don't know, when you're in the Army, they don't care if it's true or not. If somebody say it is, they're going to act as if. They don't care how outlandish, how crazy it sounds, because they think that in between the ranks, it's not supposed to be no relationship with y'all. You can't hang out, you can't kick it, you can't be friends, none of that, right? Now, like I said, before he was my boss, he was not my boss, right? So then it was cool because we wasn't in the same unit. Now that he is, anything that we talk about, anything that's going on is deemed inappropriate. Now, because we work so closely, nobody is thinking that. But when I talk to old girl, I think she started to have a problem with me, like in her head. So time is going on, and we get back to work and shit. We just working. Now, I think like a year and a half done passed or whatever. So me and the boss started dating, right? And it was low-key. I was supposed to get my E4. I was trying to think of little ways to get gone. I had started picking up like something called the BOSS program, Better Opportunities for Single Soldiers. And I was trying to find a way, because if you become president of the BOSS, you could go to another duty station, which would make all this not even be a fucking thing for me, right? So I'm working. I'm busting my ass to get out of here. I'm putting in packets. I'm requesting to go to school. I've already gotten a certification or something else, finally. So, because I kept complaining about it. I'm like, you're not letting me go to school. You won't let me deploy. Every time I ask, they say no. So I was like, I'm not doing shit until you let me do something. So now I'm starting to get more opportunities because I'm fighting for them, right? So now, me and the boss start dating. And one day, we were doing this thing called the red cycle or whatever. And the red cycle is every 3 months they put you on these stupid ass duties and details that nobody want to do. Which would be shit like go clean up the Savage yard with all the old army parts that nobody been using, throw them out, and they make you do this shit in like full kit. And the kit weighs at least 100 pounds. So you out there in the fucking sweltering heat or the icy cold doing dumb ass fuck games, right? Nobody wants to be on this shit. But I get put on it and he got put on it. And we were on separate teams. Now, a couple days before we were made to go here, we were all going to lunch. Like we always say, everybody who worked carpool, you pick somebody's car, a different person's car each time we go to lunch, right? So this time we go to lunch and we went to Wendy's. So everybody sitting down in Wendy's, we eating, chilling or whatever. And I forgot my barbecue sauce. Now, you can't eat no Wendy's nuggets without no barbecue sauce. So he was like, it's cool, drop everybody else off. We go back to go get the barbecue sauce, right? We go get the barbecue sauce. I come back and get out of the car with my food, with my bag. And he turns out the car, he gets out, and I see this other sergeant who was close to the girl who we worked with. But he was like real racist and real mean and all that shit, right? He's standing at the door by the parking lot like this. So he's just looking at us, and I'm not thinking any fucking thing of it, right? And he stays there. We both get out to walk back to our jobs with everybody else, right? And he's looking at me just like I got 4 heads. He's looking at both of us up and down, looking crazy. So now we get on the detail. We go to the detail the next week. He's over the detail this time. And he sees me and him. So now he's just staring and talking to other people and doing weird shit like that, right? And I'm just like, fuck is this dude's problem? The dude who I work with, so who was my new boss, I'm going to name him Max. So now Max, when I saw him at the gym like the next night or whatever, he comes back and tells me, I'm skipping a part, y'all. During that time, the sergeant, I'm gonna call him Sergeant Sergeant Octopus, because he was always in everybody's fucking business. Okay, so Sergeant Octopus, who was the mean racist guy, right? One morning we showed up to PT, and he was screaming at this one dude who was a new soldier because he had got married and he bought a Camaro. Now, in the Army, new enlisted people don't make a lot of money. If you fuck up your credit by getting something you can't afford or whatever, then you could lose your security clearance, which fucks the rest of your career in the Army. You might get put out, right? So he was just giving the dude the third degree. He calling him stupid. He talking about his wife. He saying he should beat his ass. Like, he's just screaming at the dude's face, like spitting, screaming in his face. And we're all standing there like this because we in formation. We just looking like, what the hell? And the dude is crying. So we were like, that's hazing. You can't fucking do that. So I told him, I'm like, hey, you can't do that. Like, you need to speak up. You need to complain. You need to do something, right? So he was like, yeah, thank you, blah, blah, blah. So now, after that, that sergeant does it again. Like, the next morning, I'm like, bro, you need to speak up for yourself. Did you complain? Did you do something? And the dude was like, I don't know how to complain. So I'm helping him with the complaint process, right? Lo and behold, the sergeant goes to like give him a counseling statement or get him in trouble. He requested that the Army kick the dude out and strip away his paycheck, take his car and shit. And I'm like, that don't seem fair. You can't do that, right? So he needed letters of recommendation. So the Sergeant Max was very good at paperwork and stuff like that. Like, a lot of people would come to him because he knew the shit. He had been in for some time. He had just came back from a deployment. He's been around the block, right? And none of our asses had deployed. We was babies, you know? So I was asking him about getting some help for old dude. He was like, oh, I got that. That shit easy work. You need this paperwork. Matter of fact, give me his number. I'm going to help him. Cool. I'll give him dude number. So he fills out a paper for old dude as a letter of recommendation for him to stay in and saying that he's not a shit soldier. Dude been hazing him, harassing him, whatever. Dude shows up to the meeting where Sergeant Octopus is recommending that the dude get kicked out and all that. We're going to call him the guy who he was hazing like that, we're gonna call him O. So Soldier O comes in with the letter from Sergeant Max. And Sergeant Octopus is like, who the fuck will write you a letter? Who got the balls to, say something against what I got to say? And when he seen what was on the letter, he remembered the name, right? So now that we on this detail, Sergeant Octopus is over the detail and he sees Sergeant Max. And the day before that, he seen me and Sergeant Max get out of the car for lunch, right? Then I seen Sergeant Octopus talking to, what did I name her as? Soy sauce, right? Seen him talking to soy sauce. So now I'm like, but I'm still not peeping what's going on, right? Y'all, come back next week for the next part.